Before I start this video essay, I would like to ask you, the audience, one question that I hope will sort of set the tone of the video and act as a sort of justification or moot for the arguments that I will be putting forward in this video. Do you think environmental protection is important? I want everyone to be completely honest before they try and answer this question. So don't just automatically say, yes, I believe I believe that environmental protection is important because you know you're watching a video about environmental protection. Be honest. If you genuinely do already see the importance of environmental protection, that's fine. But if you're not sure, or even if you just straight up think, no, I don't see the importance, that's fine as well. If you're one of those people, I implore you to kind of answer some further questions for me. Do you think litter detracts from the orderly look of an area? If so, why is that important? Is it not just looks of an area? Do you believe in general that discussions about the ecosystem and the environment are irrelevant, or at the very least not important, because you think that we should be focusing on other more serious topics like crime or the economy or education, etc.? Again, at this moment, it is very important that you don't feel pressured into an answer that you genuinely don't believe. Because really it's going to be impossible for anything that I'm saying to really and truly resonate with you by the end of this video. At the end of the day, it's just a discussion, not a test. Regardless of how you feel about its relevance, the fact still remains the same. Jamaica is filthy. And I don't mean that in any disrespect. Your community might be fine to you, but I assure you, if you have anywhere to go in the corporate area especially, it's not hard to find filth. You know, the usual. Trash on the sidewalk here, illegal dump there, clogged drain there and here, everywhere. It really is a really bad situation. And I don't think it's just because it's an urban area. I personally live in an area that's more rural, although admittedly, time-wise, it's not the furthest from the city, but it's still far enough and secluded enough to be considered rural. And outside of our personal space, it's not the cleanest either. You don't have to try very hard to see it. The vegetation is often choking on trash. Heaps of garbage just on the sides of the roads and down in precipices. Residential garbage bags that were infiltrated by stray dogs, and now all of the recent material culture of that household is strewn across the street and roads for everyone to see. I'm not exactly sure on how we as a people have become so complacent as regards to litter. Why people kind of just see it and walk by. Maybe they don't see it, or smell it for that matter. Or have we become completely desensitized as a people? Just like the rest of my community service efforts, the point of this video is to not only raise awareness and consciousness as it relates to the importance of environmental protection and solid waste management in Jamaica, but also link it back to other things such as our quality of life, the economy, crime, and general disorder. I would also like to touch upon why Jamaica has gotten itself here in the first place. Perhaps if we answer that question, it can lead us to forming strategies and possibly solutions as to how to get ourselves out of this mess, but also how to keep us from getting back to the situation in the long term. So, without further ado, I invite you to sit back, relax, open your minds, and enjoy the video. What if I told you that there was an actual scientific link between litter, the disorder it causes, and crime? Sounds far-fetched, right? Well, some research says otherwise. The broken windows theory is a criminological theory that was introduced in an article titled Broken Windows in the March 1982 issue of the Atlantic Monthly by James Q. Wilson, who was an American academic, political scientist, and authority on public administration, and George L. Kelling, American social worker and criminologist. Full disclaimer, if it looks like I'm looking back and forth, it's because I have this is a part of the video where it gets difficult to kind of memorize the material, so I'm looking back at forth, just going back to my notes and back to the video. So I hope that doesn't detract from the experience very much. The theory attempts to draw a link between physical and social disorder in a neighborhood, the psychological effect it has on its residents, and how it increases the likelihood of more serious crimes taking place. Typically, law enforcement scholars and police officers have always focused on more serious crime, where the major concern was with the crimes that were perceived to be the most serious and had the most serious consequences for the victim, such as rape, robbery, or murder. Wilson and Kelling, on the other hand, were the first to put forward a very different view that became the basis for their broken windows theory. They saw serious crime as a final result of a lengthier chain of events, theorizing that crime emanated from disorder, and if that disorder were eliminated, then serious crimes would not occur, thus improving the quality of life of the neighborhood by reducing petty crime, antisocial behavior, and lower level disorder should be a first step if your aim is to prevent major crime. A broken window is simply a term that is used to describe any form of disorder that is in that neighborhood, so not actually just broken windows. The logic behind the broken windows theory is all about the signaling of the landscape and what that communicates to its residents and would-be criminals. In a typical urban environment, social norms and monitoring are not clearly known. As a result, individuals will look for certain signs and signals that provide both insight into the social norms of that area as well as the consequences of getting caught violating those social norms, as well as the risk of getting caught violating those social norms. Those who support the broken windows theory argue that one of those signals is the area's general appearance. An ordered environment, one that is safe and has very little lawlessness, sends the message that this neighborhood is routinely monitored and criminal acts are not tolerated, even at the lowest and pettiest level. On the other hand, a disordered environment, one that is not as safe and contains visible acts of lawlessness, such as actual broken windows, graffiti, litter, sends the message that this neighborhood is not routinely monitored and individuals would be much more likely to get away with committing a crime. So, to summarize, a disordered environment communicates a lack of criminal surveillance and monitoring and detection. Individuals are therefore much more likely to engage in criminal behavior, both violent and non-violent. So we have two problems here. Litter, a broken window, attracts even more litter making and the area becomes even more and two, the disorder created from it attracts more serious crime. The theory does have many critics though, mainly due to the fact that there is little statistical evidence to support it. But you can't say that there are no case studies that show that the broken windows theory is successful when it is applied to actual law enforcement. The most famous examples of effective implementation of the broken windows theory in law enforcement took place in New York in the early 1990s, Albuquerque, New Mexico in the late 1990s, Lowell, Massachusetts in 2005, and the Netherlands in 2007, all of which saw a decrease in more serious crime after specifically targeting petty crime and disorder. Go figure. I can't go into all of these case studies in one video, so I left all of my sources in the description and I encourage you to go and read them yourselves on your own time. But for now, I will want to cover one case study, and that's the one that took place in Lowell, Massachusetts in 2005. Harvard University and Suffolk University researchers worked with local police officers to pinpoint 34 different crime hotspots in Lowell. In half of these areas, local police officers and authorities cleaned up trash from the streets, fixed streetlights, expanded aid for the homeless, and made more misdemeanor arrests. There was no change made to the other half of the areas. The researchers found that in areas in which police service was changed, there was a 20% reduction in the calls to there was a 20% reduction in calls to the police. And because the researchers implemented different ways of changing the city's landscape, from cleaning the physical environment to increasing arrests, they were able to compare the effectiveness of these various approaches. Although many proponents of the broken window theory argue that increasing policing and arrests is the solution to reducing crime, others insist that more arrests do not solve the problem, but rather changing the physical landscape should be the desired means to the end. And this is exactly what Brenda Bond of Suffolk University and Anthony Braga of Harvard Kennedy School of Government found. Cleaning up the environment was revealed to be very effective. Misdemeanor arrests were less so, and increasing social services had no impact. This study provided strong evidence for the effectiveness of the broken windows theory in reducing crime by decreasing disorder, specifically in the context of cleaning up the physical and visible neighborhood. Now, I think it's fairly obvious that Jamaica today is suffering from a serious crime problem, particularly as it relates to homicides. But let me make myself perfectly clear. I'm not implying that if we removed all garbage and all litter from Jamaica, that crime would magically drop to zero the next day. How could I say that? Everyone should know that crime, especially in Jamaica, is a complicated issue that is affected by various factors, things like poverty, education, opportunities, etc. But what I am suggesting, I can't remember words. Poverty, education, socialization, law enforcement, etc. But what I am suggesting is that if we truly want to tackle this problem, as we should, applying the broken windows theory to law enforcement is a great and, dare I say, essential first step to achieving that goal. And I personally have not seen many people making that point. You know what they say, cash is king. If I can't convince you to crime, then maybe the economy could do the trick? Okay, I'm just kidding. I think it goes without saying that crime is simply bad for economic development in the long run. Now, that fact alone should be enough to convince you that this environment thing I'm rambling about is important. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to try and go a tad bit deeper into why I think that the situation with the litter and solid waste management is bad for the economy. So, travel and tourism contributes the largest amount of GDP to the Jamaican economy. As of 2019, it was 34.7%. As you can see, we are fairly dependent on our tourism product, and thus the impressions of our tourists on Jamaica is highly and critically important. Now, I want you to imagine this for a second. We're going to play a little game, little make-believe kind of thing. You are a tourist visiting Jamaica. Let's say it's your first time as well. It doesn't really matter which country you are from. That's up to you. You can decide. It's not important. You land at Sangster's International Airport, excited to finally get that iconic Jamaican experience your friends and co-workers have told you so much about. Perhaps you're going to a resort, or maybe you opted to try out a villa, Airbnb type thing. Again, that part is up to your imagination because the story I'm making is going to apply to it anyways. You finally completed all the typical airport things that one does on arrival, and all you have to do now is exit the airport and hop on that shuttle, taxi, bus, chauffeur, whatever that is going to take you where you want to go. You exit the airport doors and you take your first whiff of that Jamaican stench. It smells bad, like stagnant water mixed with trash. But hey, it's warm and you appreciate that. Then you look around to get a scope of the Jamaican vibe you heard so much about, and you see the awesome, the iconic, impressionable disorder. Litter is everywhere. Locals are there, which is cool, but they're loud and noisy. Well, it's not that bad. It's not like you're chilling out at the airport for 2 weeks, anyways. Eventually, your ride comes and takes you to where you need to go. Ah, bet. Vacation finally begins now. But suddenly, it starts to rain. Heavily. No worries, it was a little hot, so you don't mind it raining once it doesn't stay that way, naturally. Suddenly, water starts rising. No, I mean really rising. The city is literally flooded due to the drains being clogged from garbage. Traffic comes to a halt and leaves you stranded for hours to cover a distance that really should have only taken about 5 to 10 minutes, during which you get to see the city in its final form. Oh my days. Every time I read that, man. You bear witness to the forgotten scraps left behind by the locals to live underneath the city, rising again to claim the surface in a final hurrah. Not what you had in mind for island paradise. During this trip, you see the highest levels of filth mixed with water run rampant in the city, terrorizing pedestrians and halting traffic. You're a bit turned off, but after a long, long wait, you finally arrive at where you needed to go, at the hotel or the villa, like I said, up to you. All of a sudden, it's like an entirely different country. You probably would have liked to explore outside the walls of your resort or villa, get a taste of the Jamaican everyday life, culture, personality, and you're most likely put off by the idea now after what you just saw. But at least it is definitely nice here, where you finna be. Hooray, you didn't waste your money. You get down to that beach, you unleash your beach chair, turn up some tunes, and you get some of that nice ocean breeze. Nothing wrong here. But hang on, wait just 1 second. Is that trash washed up on the sea line? Why do the coral reefs here look so dead and decrepit? And you realize that not even when you are in the most secluded place you could be, you still can't escape the reality of the dying environment that is Jamaica. And at this moment, you realize, or you think to yourself, shoot, I knew I should have gone to the Dominican Republic instead. I know I am not alone when I say it, but I dislike pests. For me, I personally have a special loathe towards rats. No one likes seeing them, and having to actually deal with them, as you should, is an even more unpleasant task and process in itself. So, if you didn't know, rats and other pests like cockroaches, flies, and mosquitoes thrive in places that either provide easy breeding grounds, so think of plastic containers that trap water whenever it rains, and mosquitoes, or rich organic material easily accessed. Think of stockpiles at markets or densely populated residential areas that haven't that have not had their garbage collected in a extended period of time. This is a situation that threatens the security of food that we consume, since a lot of these places are located at places where we buy, produce, or even consume meals. It also allows the aforementioned pests to thrive, all of which are disease carrying vectors. And this is a situation which I'm sure you know happens all the time in Jamaica, and we see it all the time on the local news. Zika, chikungunya, leptospirosis are all epidemics that have at least been amplified by the way we treat our surroundings. Now, I've spent a lot of time in this video saying how bad it is and basically only pointing out that there is a problem, but I haven't yet gone into how to actually solve that problem. Granted, easier said than done, but I do want to give some amount of suggestions to start out the public discussion that I hope will be the catalyst for change. However, in order to arrive at a strategy to actually solve a problem, one needs to first identify the root cause or causes of that problem. First of all, let's just make something clear. The issue is improper disposal of garbage. That's it. So, why is so much garbage disposed of improperly? But because I live in Jamaica and I did a considerable amount of research on the topic, I do have a hypothesis on the matter. Firstly, I want to get rid of any notion that the answer to the question at hand is we're too nasty. Okay, fine. Due to the conditions in which a lot of people live, I do believe that there is a certain culture that was created that made a lot of people feel okay about tossing their trash wherever and whenever. Such practices I consider nasty, so maybe you could consider the people who do it nasty. But is that unfair? Why are the people nasty? Is it their fault? Is it my fault? Is it everyone's fault? Why are we nasty? For me, the issue lies in our solid waste management. Fact is, we are producing too much garbage too frequently that our solid waste management systems are simply unable to manage it. And I'm not saying that the answer is we need more trucks. More on that later. I'll tell you a little bit about my life. Where I live, the garbage collection is inconsistent to say the least, and there are plenty of other places that are the same. It's not uncommon to go 2, 3 weeks, a month, over a month without garbage being collected. I think my household is fortunate in the fact that we are capable and willing to hold 6 weeks and over worth of garbage, albeit with a considerable amount of discomfort after a while, and not worry about it becoming litter. Other people don't have that luxury. If the garbage truck doesn't come soon, guess where all of their trash is going? Yeah, I'm guessing after a while people just expect it not to come, and the culture of litter and illegal dumping begins to take roots. Some people in Jamaica get their garbage collected very consistently. For what I saw online, some people even say they'll get it collected twice per week, which I think is a bit too consistent. But what do I know? Other places, it's a guessing game. Some of us can wait and want to hold out, others can't or don't want to. I think the best and first step to sorting out the issue is making garbage collection in Jamaica universally consistent. Okay, maybe not all the places can get collection once a week, but even if the government could say, once every 2 weeks, and it's gonna be on a Tuesday as well, and make it happen and stick to it, the effect, especially if you combine it with all the public awareness campaigns and education going on, could be immense. I don't think we just need more trucks. No, we really need to be thinking more deeply and with more insight than that, in my opinion. On average, how much garbage, or let's say mass or volume as a metric. There needs to be a physical metric, right? I'm not an expert, but I would assume it's going to be either mass or volume. So how much kilograms or how much cubic meters of garbage does area A produce in 1 week? What is the maximum amount of garbage that the people there can be expected to reasonably contain? In how many weeks does it reach that threshold? How much garbage is each truck reasonably able to contain? How many trucks and crews can we guarantee are functional at any point in time? Do we need to spend some money to increase the capacity of some areas in the event that due to the geography and terrain we can't get to them in X number of weeks? So that would mean putting in skips, donating garbage bags, donating receptacles, and so on. Hey, maybe we actually do need more trucks, but increasing the number of trucks in the system is not going to fix the issue alone. Not everyone can and will get their garbage collected once per week, but give the people a day and a number to work with and stick to it. Consistent collection, cleanups every now and then, enforcement of laws, unbiased and consistent enforcement of laws, mandates that reduce the amount of packaging in locally manufactured and imported products. Because I think we should play our fair share part as well. And most of our solid waste consists of various forms of packaging. I think that, as you hear it, is the winning formula at destroying the dumping culture and our solid waste crisis by giving the people a legitimate reason to behave in the correct way and by having the means of preventing it from happening. Hooray, you actually made it to the end of the video. Thank you. The aim of this video essay was ultimately to act as the grand finale of my environmental awareness campaign. My goal for it was to really link and simultaneously flesh out all the ideas and messages I was trying to spread through the various things I have been posting on my social media. I really hope I accomplished that. All the sources I used in making this video are in the description, along with the links to my other social media accounts with more environmentally friendly content for you to enjoy. So please go and check those out, as I would greatly appreciate it. And with that being said, I would like to thank you for watching the video, and I hope that you found it enlightening and very influential. Have a good one.